It's too slippery. Stay tuned for... Go away, doggy. Don't stay on the road. Got a couple of madmen going down the hill later on. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So, I've spent a good sum of money upgrading and repairing my car. There's some notable upgrades that I'm really looking forward to talk about. It's particularly the Sharkwerks Short Gear Ratios, and also the lightweight flywheel, single mass flywheel, the sport clutch upgrade, also from Sharkwerks, and also some sports cats upgrade, etc. Tarrett Engineering Suspension Mounts, and also stage 2 tuning. I'm going to talk more about that as I get in the car and start driving. Okay, so it's kind of a wet morning, so you can see it. So I don't think I'll put my roof down today, right, which is also good because often when the roof is down, I don't get to focus so much on talking to you guys and focusing on just driving and having fun, right? So one of the things I want to show you guys are the new convertible top. So it's all new right now. It's all fixed. Remember last time there was a wire popping out. So this one I fixed it with a gentleman in Rawang, and this seafood is really old timer. He did this all in just 2 days, right? Really good 2 days. He took off the old roof. He took out all the metal bits. They greased it. Fix some of the bushes. He even could custom get some bushes done, and they fixed it so the roof feels brand new. I just love it. I haven't protected it, but I'm gonna do this before I go on enduro. Right, so let's jump in and get our drive started. Okay, I know that we talk a lot about other upgrades, but this is something that I do want to say is kind of important. And if you own a 981 like I do, or 991, you know the Byzantines are pretty useless, right? They only shine up to 30 kilometers, especially after being 9 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old. It's practically not that useful anymore, right? Look at that. Those are the upgrades from CSB Pro, and it's not only you can shine a little bit further because I've tuned. I know it looks bright, it might shine to other people. Actually, it's below the watermark, and half a finger below the watermark, so it's still a bit lower in consideration of other passengers. But look how clear the light is, and this is after 2 years of using CSB Pro. Before and after, it makes a big difference when you're driving the B roads, right? So worth a mention. Good morning, everybody. It's wet. It's very wet. It's not those kind of torrential pouring rain that we get in tropical countries like Malaysia, but it's those annoying non-stop light showers for hours. And it seems it's been like this for a couple of hours here in Genting Highlands, my favorite B roads. So couldn't do chill driving, okay? So I'm heading down, and I thought this would be a good time to do a chill drive and share about how these upgrades were put together. Is it worth it, right? And for those of you who are probably considering the upgrades, you get some good consumer information, all right? All right. So the most notable and the most exciting upgrade I had is the short gear ratios from Sharkwerks, okay? And also the single mass lightweight flywheel together with the sports clutch, okay? Big shout out to Autoholics Garage, Julian and Andrew. Thank you so much for sourcing me these parts and helping me fit it in record time, okay? So thank you so much. And also Mike's Garage for helping me consult and also import the Tarrett Engineering mounts, the suspension mounts. Made a huge difference. Okay, and very big difference. For those of you who are owning a 981 or maybe a 991 with aftermarket coils, you do want to stay tuned for that one. Go away, doggies. Don't stay on the road. It's dangerous. Got a couple of madmen going down the hill later on. Let's talk about the gearbox. Why did I want to spend a big sum of money for this, right? So I have to go back all the way to the time where, if you hang around YouTube, you know a lot of YouTubers complain about, the long second gear on the 981 GT4 also the Spyder, right? The whole world was lit about Porsche coming out with a mid-engine GT car, right? And it was great, but everyone complains about the short gear to ratio, okay? And I got many friends who are keen drivers, supercar owners, and all of them were pretty put off by how brilliant the chassis is, but how the engine didn't match the chassis, and the gearbox was just one of the biggest sort of like weak spots. And some even claim that it's to protect the big brother, protect the GT3, right? To make the GT4 not as good or not as aggressive, so you know it'll give GT3 a little bit more space to breathe. That's all. It's just all I don't know. It's just opinions, right? But anyways, the long gear to ratio, I learned to sort of live with it. But one of the issues I had was, you know, sometimes when you feel spirited and you want to push the car a little bit, and I think this is, I speak particularly more for people who are on track. When you're exiting the corner, you do want to have that nice torque and power delivery. So let's go all the way back to and to explain this, we have to go and look at the dyno charts, right? So I did a dyno before I started any of my works, and I noticed that between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM, 4,000 and 5,000 RPM, there are 2 torque dips, and this is when you need the power the most, exiting the corners. So on slow corners, you might end up right at 3,500 RPM, which is the first torque dip. So you climb off the torque dip, and then you're throttling, you're pulling yourself out, and then you reach 4,000 and 5,000 RPM, then you meet with another power and torque dip again. So it can be very detrimental to lap times for those of you who are trekking. And for those of you who like spirited driving, it can feel like the car is not urgent enough. And I've experienced many times when I'm driving with supercar owners, it feels like I get left behind. It feels like I'm driving a car with 80 horsepower less, right? And the only way to drive fast is to, you know, carry more speed into the corner. But the one that gives me the most difference actually is the Single Mass Flywheel from Sharkwerks. It's not actually the short ratio gearbox. So after installing the Single Mass Flywheel, it feels like the torque dip that I've always had to 4,005, it's noticeably less. It feels more urgent in those ranges when I need it the most. What it does is it almost transforms the car's experience, right? Back in the day, sometimes I want to go, the car wouldn't go. Now it felt like the car would start to match my level of urgency. Are there any downsides to it? There is a bit of chatter. I consulted with Autoholics. It's not the flywheel. It's something to do with one of those bearings, which is normal, but it's not so loud to the point where you can hear it in the car. You have to literally walk to the rear of the car. That's not very obvious, okay? So for those of you who are looking to get it, it's not noticeable when you're driving the car, not at all, even in idle. What are the other effects? Well, the plus side is your revs go up really quick. So it goes round, round, round. So it's like a little RS treatment, right? So the car does have a bit more aggression in the way it climbs the rev. So I was put off sometimes because when I'm trying to downshift and then I was like, oh fuck. So to do a little bit of adjustment. You got to shift your gear a little bit faster because the rev drops faster as well. So, which is a good thing. So you can sort of, you know, drive more spiritedly, which I like. So I think it's really worth the money. Of course, this is also supported by Mike's Garage, who did the DNA tuning, focusing also covering the torque dip from 4 to 5,000 RPM, and also we did there's a stage 2 tuning, and we did a sports cat as well. We'll talk about that later on, right? The close ratios, does it help? Initially, I wanted to have the gear 2, 3, 4, 5 all changed, including the main shaft. So if you want to do the gear 2, you're going to change the main shaft, which is a big cost. We're talking about additional $3,000 US just to get one gear and one main shaft, and they didn't have the stock, and I needed the car to be done before enduro. So we decided to only do 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if I did gear 2, I probably felt more urgent. The car would be more urgent. So So it's still the long Gear 2 I have from stock. But actually it's not bad, because right now, when I shift up of Gear 2, typically before that, if I shift 1000 RPM before the red line, I would end up in the torque dip at 3008 or 4000, and then I go through one more torque dip, right? Right now with the Gear 3, when I short shift 1000 RPM before the red line, I shift around 4005. If you haven't tuned your car and did what I did with my car, then of course you end up in the torque dip. But for me, I land back into power. So it means that I have a linear power progression even after I shift my gear. Back in the days, when I go to Gear 2 and I shift to Gear 3, it's like, you know? So it's like, like, so it's more, so it's more continuous. Whereas when you go to Gear 2 and Gear 3, there was a cost to always shift in Gear 3. But right now I can go to Gear 3 and the car continues going. So the shortened gear ratio on Gear 3 really helps. When I shift down to Gear 3, I land at 5000 RPM, where the max power is starting to build. And it makes me drive more spiritedly. Best part is, you leave Gear 6 alone. And look, I'm doing my highway miles right now, and no problem. I got my Gear 6, so I can just cruise back down to town to have a cup of coffee. But if I were to do this again, I would have just splurged a bit more, and if they had the stock, I would have gone for the main shaft and Gear 2 as well, right? Because what a monster this car would be, you know, on the B roads with that short ratio Gear 2 and that high flying lightweight flywheel. Okay. The other set of upgrades I have is the power upgrade. So I went over to Mike's garage and we did a preliminary tuning. The whole treatment for stage 2 with the sports caps and drop-in air filter only gave me, I think, around 18 horsepower. And it may seem like a small gain because that's the peak horsepower. Most of the gains were actually at the torque dip where I needed the most. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I can bring up the chart and show you. I believe it was 20 or 30 horsepower or newton meters of torque gain in those range. So as a result, even though the peak horsepower wasn't a lot more different, I felt like the car gained like 50 horsepower, right? Okay, so now in mid corners or exiting corners, I don't feel like the car is slouched anymore. I can keep up with some of my friends who drive more powerful cars. But for the exhaust, we could have gotten more power. Now, some of you might be thinking, yeah, Thomas, if you went for a header, and if you went for sports header, you went for straight pipe or maybe a Caraprovic exhaust and stuff, you could have gotten more horsepower. Well, the answer is yes, but I didn't want that. I want more drivability. I don't want just more power. I want the more drivability, and that's why I engaged Mike's garage. And Mike Yap is really good at this because Mike himself also is a driver. You know, all the horsepowers and put it on the, you know, post it on Instagram, we gain 30, 50 horsepowers, whatever. And yeah, it's nice, but it's about the drivability. So that's why I really appreciate working with Mike. And one of the things that I wanted to have as well was to maintain the exhaust noise, original sound of my car. And I've done some research online, and those people who switch their headers, straight pipe, it just sounds too trumpety to me. It sounds like motorsport, you know. And if you look at the Spyder convertible, it's a lifestyle car, right? So I feel it's like a mismatch of its personality. So it's just a personal thing. I like the bassy, raspy grunt, right? All the way from the bottom to the top. With Mike's advice, he said don't change the headers. Why don't we just change the sports cat to get more flow? Okay, so we installed HGA Motorsports 100 cell sports cat, so there's more flow and the car is noticeably louder, which is good. More on the outside than the inside, but you do feel more of it when you drop the top, right? So it gave me the same quality of noise but louder, which I like. And one thing I asked Mike to do was to delete the pops and bangs, because after 3 years plus of owning this car, it's time to grow up. No more so I mean, I can always put it back when I feel bored, right? But I think I'm happy with this. It feels more mature, it feels more grown up. And the last part, which is the surprising part, is Tarrett Engineering's suspension mounts. I opted to install this not because of a focus on performance. I installed this because the original suspension mounts, which the hydraulic ones in front, and the silica ones behind would just keep failing, especially the one in front. And my suspicion is because if you use aftermarket mounts, it does not work very well with the hydraulic mounts, okay? So after 4 months, as early as 4 months, I started to see my front would dip down, and the car will feel more oversteerish because the rear is a bit more up. And I start like bottoming out in more areas, where I don't usually do that. And it's kind of frustrating because they're not cheap either. After consulting with Mike, he said, why don't we just try something different? Let's try a different approach. Let's get a solid state mount. So we got this monoball mounts from Tarrett Engineering. I'll put the picture up. It looks beautiful. It has this trick bearing around it. And the monoball is actually Teflon coated. There are 2 types. One is the more track type. There's more sports or track type, and one of it is more of the road going type. So mine's the monoball with the road going type, right? If you look at this mount for the front and the rear, some of you might be thinking, well, it sounds like the hydraulics and the silica one would be more comfortable. Well, the answer is yes, it is better to have those. But if it keeps failing, it's kind of annoying, right? And it not only burns a hole in the pocket, I got to keep changing it and stuff. And I thought that by installing Tarrett Engineering's mounts, the solid state mounts, it will be a significant trade-off. Well, the answer is no. Actually, no. It really kept the quality of the ride. So what I mean by kept the quality of the ride? Well, I installed KW V3s 2 years ago. It's still going strong. Thank you, Mike's Garage. And one thing I like about KWs is that it makes you feel very connected to the road. It gives you more grainy feel on your steering, but it never feels like it's jarring. Like when you reach the bottom of the bump, it never feels like it's going to knock you back, right? So that's what I really like about KWs. So my ride quality on high speeds like this, like I'm going above 50 and 60, is slightly better. The only thing is that you can feel the vibration travel into the chassis, just a little bit. So normally some things would just sort of get absorbed by the mounts, but this one starts going into the chassis. Well, obviously because it's a solid state mount, right? But never loud noise or bing bang boom, so none of that, right? So that's the good news. But when it comes to performance, it's actually surprising. So I noticed that the more I drive, it really helps me hold on to my camber. So my original camber setting in my car before I installed the Tarrett Engineering mounts were, on the rear was a -2 and the fronts were running -1.5, right? So it's a bit more aggressive, but now I actually have a slightly less camber. So my front is now running -1 or -1.1 if I'm not mistaken, and I went from toe up to toe neutral, and my rear is still at -2, okay? But what I felt, even though with a lower, less camber, the car felt like it has the same amount of camber. After talking to some guys who are in the suspension trade and people who drive cars, if you use the normal mounts, what happens is when you go in the corner, you lose camber. And because the solid state mounts is holding it there, it holds on to the camber. So as a result, I feel like I don't have to now go onto a more aggressive camber to get what I want. So when I'm doing high-speed corners, I found that stability is increased, right? Not traction, so the car moves around less, it sits down more, it feels more flat and hunkered down, and more predictable as well. Those are the net positives. So if you are running coilovers on the 981s and 991s, go for it. Be warned though, if you're going through low-speed bumps or going through cobble roads, you might feel it's a bit jarring, only on the low speeds. But otherwise, once you get going, it's not a big issue, right? So for the spirited driver, definitely worth the upgrade. Yeah, contact Mike to get that done, right? And shout out, thank you so much, Tarrett Engineering, for creating such amazing stuff, right? So yeah, roof's done, upgrades done. I'm a very happy man. The only thing left for me right now is to get my car into Expel to do my livery. Probably send it to Odoholics Garage for one last check, engine oil, and then do my stickers and livery. And we start our 6,000 kilometers, or rather, I think it's close to 7,000 kilometers drive all around Thailand. Right? I can't wait for that. Right? Let's see if we can pull in the wet. It's too slippery. Okay, no full throttle, but still a rich sound, yeah. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking to get your engine tuned, to get it more drivable, contact Mike's Garage, DNA Tuning, proper driver guy. And if you not just want power, you want more drivability, Mike's the guy. He also does KW suspensions, and they'll help you out with the engine mounts if you're looking for that as well, okay? And if you are looking to get your gearbox like from Sharkwerks and stuff, Autoholics Garage, thank you Andrew and Julian. Right, these guys are passionate in their work. These guys are racers, by the way, so they track their car a lot, okay? So they do a good job, okay? So reach out to them, link in the description below if you're looking for them. And if you want to follow my content on occasional car reviews and my vlogs, my travel to Highland and back, subscribe to my channel and please hit the like button if you got value out of this, alright? And let me know in the comments what do you think, okay? As always, love you guys, thanks for watching and keep it 100, okay? Peace out, ciao.